So welcome to my video. Today I'm going to be breaking down how I made my song Reaching for the Sky, which just came out. The first thing I did was I started with this pad right here. The sound is just someone's voice that I threw into sampler, and I didn't do too much processing to it. I kind of just like EQ'd it a little bit. The next thing I did was I took that sound and I pitched it down to kind of like fill out more of the lower end of the song. After that, the next element that came in was this melody here. The melody started when I was trying to recreate a sound from this Flume song that somebody like recorded from one of his stories, but I guess he never posted, and the lead sounded really cool. So I tried to remake it, and then I played like a bunch of random sounds with it, and I ended up sampling what I messed around with. I put it into sampler and put it in slice mode so I can just like hit random keys on my keyboard and then kind of like try to find a melody, and this is what I came up with. The next thing that comes in is the textures at the beginning of the song. The first of the sounds come from my Prophet. It looks like it's just like a chord that I held down and it just like kind of played its way through. There's another one of those. I think I did the same thing before where I just like took the sound and I pitched it down, as you can see there. And then this sound here. This sound I'm not really sure where it came from, but I thought it sounded cool, so I just kind of like threw it in. I'm not sure if there's someone's voice in there, but it sounds like there's someone's voice in there, and I thought that that was really sick. The next bit that comes in is the drums. A lot of the drums I think come from the snares. It's kind of like the snares are driving a lot of the song. The snares sound like this. A lot of how I do my drums is I'll like take audio files and I'll like change the pitch and the volume of different audio files, so it doesn't feel like I'm just using the same sample over again. But then on top of that, I used, I think, like 3 or 4 different snare samples to get this. So I have like one here, this is one, this is one. After that, I added in these kicks, and I have 2 different kicks. I have one like heavier one right here, and then I have a lighter one here. It just gives the song a little bit more like depth in terms of like the sounds. Instead of just like using the same snare and kick for everything, it opens the track up. The next thing I have here is these toms. This tom here kind of acts as like the attack. It's more of like the high end of what's happening. And then this tom is more of like the meat of what's going on. The next thing I have are these hats that I sampled a cashmere acoustic hat loop, and I just threw it in the slice mode in Ableton. Again, I could go to my keyboard and like find a pattern, but I think a lot of what I like to do with the hats is I like to put it in this here and then just like finding stuff and like finding it this way. For some reason, I don't like to play things in. I feel like it's just, I feel more creative when I have to like draw everything in. The next thing that I have here are the vocals that Jenna sent me. When I made this, it was like very bare. It was like only only a few of the snares, like some of the kicks and like the original pad, and that was all I had. I was gonna throw it away, but she was curious, so I sent it to her, and when she sent me the vocals, she did all of them she had every idea kind of stacked on top of each other, and I thought it sounded amazing. What I did was I like took little bits of it and I like would change some of the harmonies into melodies. I would change some of the notes with Melodyne, like kind of pitch them around, or like take a different part of like another melody she sang and like put it at the end of the first one so that it was singing what I was like hearing. And I like took that and I rearranged it throughout the song, and this is what it sounds like. The next section in the song is this middle section between the first drop and the second drop. I basically just took the textures from the beginning, I threw them into the middle, the flume melody thingy comes in. The only thing that is super different are the chimes that I have here that kind of fill at the high end. And then also this thing here, which is kind of just like a sound from my Prophet with like a delay on it that was kind of interesting. And it kind of just does that for a minute. I brought back in like the lower pitched pad and the original pad. The original pad, I think it's low passed in, so it's like starts from the low end and then it gets bigger. The drums are the same for the second section, but what changes about the second section drums are these cymbals that I copied from Tennyson's With You. It kind of sounds like a weird electronic version of like jazz cymbals. It's kind of just like a 16th note pattern. I took a bunch of cymbal samples and I put them into drum rack, and then I just drew them in using the MIDI. The other part that changes are the synths. The synths are super different. There's just really one main driving synth for this section, and it's this one. And the whole sound is basically just a sine or a triangle wave with these two sounds that kind of add a little bit of high end. And then the way I processed it is I just added like little bits of distortion with amplitude and isotope trash, which are doing like very little. It's like just a tiny bit of distortion to kind of help the sound peek through the mix. The next sound that comes in are these pads. The second part of this section kind of like builds on the lower end. The last thing that I have here is the bass. It's the PWM wave in Massive, which is just, I think it's just a saw wave. I think I just low passed it. It just follows the original synth. The last section is the outro, and the outro, it's just everything from before, but I took out all the vocals. But a bunch of the textures from the beginning come back. There's this pad. And then this sound, which is just the original one, just pitched down. And some of the cymbals, but I think I processed them a tiny bit differently. If you want to stream the song, again, I'll include a link in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.